everybody, and welcome back to episode 20 of the On Deck podcast. I'm your host, Roberto, and today we're going to be talking about the Rockies firing Bud Black and the Pirates also firing Derek Shelton, what that means for those two franchises. We have a Javy Báez resurgence and playing a new position, so we're going to talk about that for a little bit. And then the thing that's catching all the headlines nowadays is the Rafael Devers position change, possibly, but probably not. So I'm going to give my take on it. And that's what we have lined up for you guys today. So jumping right into it, we have the Colorado Rockies, the worst team in baseball by, quite a large margin, on pace for God knows how many wins. They're right now, as the time of recording, they are 7-33. And just to give you guys a reference to, compared to another bad team that we have in MLB, the Chicago White Sox, they're currently sitting at 12-29. 12-29 for the Chicago White Sox, who, everybody knows is not going anywhere, isn't a very competitive team. But here we have the Colorado Rockies beating them out, basically, as, hands down the worst team in baseball. And a couple days ago, they let Bud Black go. And to be honest, you kind of have to change something up, because 7 wins through almost 50 games? Come on, that's inexcusable. That is just inexcusable. And the thing is that, obviously that division is very competitive and, they weren't going to stack up a lot of wins. But if you could have told me that the Rockies were going to be this bad going into the season, I would have said, no, the Chicago White Sox are going to be worse. Or actually, no, it's just the White Sox. But this is quite mind-blowing how bad they are. And across the board, this team is just pathetic. There's no other way of saying it. And I know they're missing their best player in Ezekiel Tovar, and guys just haven't played, aka Chris Bryant, who that honestly, and the Rendon contract might be looking like some of the worst contracts in recent memory, because that guy just can't stay healthy. But on the flip side, Rendon just hates baseball, but that's a whole nother discussion. But I think, if they bring back when they get Tovar back, I think this offense could elevate a little bit. I'm not sure by how much, because this offense stinks. This offense truly stinks. Like, we saw a breakout from Brenton Doyle last year. Looked good, went 2020. And, I was expecting, kind of the same, if not, a bigger leap going into, year 3 of being, a consistent regular. And that leap just hasn't happened. And, when you play half of your games at Coors, basically everybody makes the joke that they play on the moon and the ball flies out. And it does, but just not for them, apparently. They got spanked by the Tigers, 21-0 in your home stadium. And you couldn't score any runs. I know this was the front half of a doubleheader, and they ended up scoring 2 in the next game. But come on, you got to put some kind of offense up in that stadium. And they did end up bringing up Chase Dollander couple games through the start of the season, and it's tough to watch, because we all saw what he was in college and then working his way through the minors, and when you play at Coors, it's just kind of hard to develop as a pitcher. You look at guys like German Marquez, who's made a living off playing at Coors and surprisingly is still a part of that team. I thought a couple years ago when he was an all-star, I guess at the peak of his powers, could have been, a good trade piece for the Rockies, but the Rockies doing Rockies things and just not moving or trying to develop guys. but it's hard to watch Rockies baseball, and looks to be no sign of Rocktober anytime soon. Now, moving on to the firing of Derek Shelton of the Pittsburgh Pirates. This one gets me, a little more frustrated with not so much the team, but the ownership. Because if you look at the Pittsburgh Pirates, you have probably, not even probably, arguably the best pitcher on the planet with Paul Skeens. And you have 2-3 other guys that, you can build around in that pitching rotation. You have Jared Jones, Mitch Keller, and Bubba Chandler, who you have stashed in the minors still. And I think it comes to the point where we don't start pointing fingers at the managers, but we need to start from the top, and that goes to the owners and the GMs. And I think this is where we should start, because these are the ones that, are making the big decisions on how much money the team is going to be spending, and, they're going to be competitive or whatnot, all that good stuff. Because last year, Pittsburgh Pirates, they weren't necessarily in contention, but, in the NL East, or NL Central, sorry, that kind of is a wide open, it's a wide open division. And so they weren't fully bought into, going for it, but, they made some decent moves. Actually, no, they weren't decent at all. I'm being generous. They went and grabbed IKF to play shortstop, and then they got Brian De La Cruz, who isn't even on the team anymore. He is, I think, in the Yankees minor league system, and yeah, I'm pretty sure the Pirates DFA'd him at like whenever the waiver wire was. But like, you can't expect the team to be competitive with a whole bunch of minor league players, quadruple A guys that aren't capable of hitting major league pitching at all. Like you have a great pitching staff. You have a couple good bullpen arms. Ryan Barucki is throwing really well. Dennis Santana is throwing well, really too. David Bednar looks to be turning the corner and going back to, the Bednar that we all expect him to be. But it comes to the point where you can't really expect a team to be competitive when they aren't given the chance. Like, no one is scared to face the Pittsburgh Pirates unless Paul Skeens is on the mound right now. And at this point, who knows? The Pirates could just be crazy enough to trade him and probably get a bag of chips and some sunflower seeds in return and call it a day. But like, the Pittsburgh Pirates right now might be on the same level as the Colorado Rockies, because yeah, sure, the Rockies are bad, but they've tried to spend money in some places. Like, they're probably a little paranoid of that Chris Bryant contract, but they're signing guys in positions. Like, they signed Jacob Stallings, who, say what you want, he was a good defensive catcher and is there to split time with Hunter Goodman, who surprisingly is ranking for the team. But the Pirates just don't, like, their one move was signing Tommy Pham. And Tommy Pham is, Tommy Pham's really good. He's gonna probably be, I saw a joke on Twitter, or X, sorry, that Tommy Pham's probably going to be hitting 6th or 7th for a playoff team and gonna be producing, and we're all gonna forget that he was a Pittsburgh Pirate at the beginning of this year. And it's quite funny because I think the last 4 years, Tommy Pham has, been on a playoff team producing. And I think the Pirates are looking to, take advantage of that. And because realistically, what else do they have going for them? They don't spend money. They never have. I saw a stat today too that since 2017, they have been in the bottom 8 spending wise, like across the league. And like, man, like you can't expect to be competitive if you don't spend. And that's another thing. I don't think they're going to extend Paul Skeens and, avoid those arbitration years and have him sign this long extension because I have no faith in them. And they're just going to let him walk. And it's going to make me so, so mad. Like, they have the potential here to build, an all-time great rotation with Paul Skeens, Mitch Keller, Jared Jones, and Bubba Chandler. And, with some supporting pieces in the lineup, they don't need to be superstars. You can just have, like, a whole bunch of 100 to 110 WRC plus guys and maybe one superstar to build around. Hopefully, Brian Reynolds kind of blossoms into that player and kind of, starts the bounce back for the rest of his season. But, you got to do something if you're Pittsburgh here. You got to choose a direction, and hopefully, if it's a rebuild, then call up Bubba, call up Tamar Johnson, call up guys that, you got to show the franchise that you're going in a certain direction. Where the Pittsburgh Pirates are going right now, they're kind of just throwing their hands up and like, I don't know what we're going to do, but you know what? We're just going to keep running out these guys, and hopefully one of them works out. And it's a painful watch. It is a very, very painful watch. And hopefully they don't, do anything crazy at the deadline. I don't want to see that core of pitchers go, but I wouldn't be surprised if anything, if one of them leave in a horrible, horrible trade that we'll probably look back on, maybe even do a live reaction to, but hopefully it doesn't come to that point. But moving on to, some better, more exciting news. We have a Javy Báez resurgence, and he's no longer playing shortstop for the Detroit Tigers. He's playing center field, which is kind of crazy because I think he played, was it left field or right field at one point with the Cubs? I think they just threw him out there for, I don't even know, maybe a couple games. It's probably, now that I'm just saying this off the top of my head, it's probably maybe one time that they put him out there. But honestly, he looks really good out there in center. He robbed a home run in Angel Stadium, and he also hit a grand slam there too, which was, I saw that highlighted. I said, "Whoa, is Javy back? Like, for real?" Like, I saw that and I was like, okay, maybe he ran into one. And then I pull up like his stat page. Guy's hitting, over 300, solid amount of RBIs. He has 3 home runs. He's playing good defense. He has a couple stolen bases. Like, this is what the Detroit Tigers wanted 2 years ago when they signed Báez to that contract. And now that I think that he doesn't necessarily have that pressure of being, that face of the franchise, that one big star that the team kind of revolves around. He can just be, in the 5 or 6 hole, just doing, just having like a kind of like a clear mind playing because, he's a complementary piece to guys like Torkelson, who's been hitting well. You have Gleyber Torres in that lineup. You have Dylan Dingler, who's hitting. And then obviously you have headlined by Riley Green in there doing his thing. And I think that if you put Báez in this spot where you don't need him to be that superstar, it kind of just be like that guy in the background. I think this is where the Tigers are able to get the best out of Báez. And even playing him in center field and, providing some semi-decent defense, like, that's all you need him to do. And I think now if he continues to produce like this, people will look at the front 2 years of that contract to be absolutely horrible, especially with all the bad swings and chases that he has. He's not chasing as much. His whiff rate, it's still going to be high because Báez is always going to be a free swinger, but he's making a lot more contact than he was last year, which is always a great sign because he can be that guy. Like, we've seen him do it before with the short time that he was with the Mets, but even times with the Cubs. Like, he can be an impact player, and for the Tigers needing a bat like this in a lineup that, I'm not going to lie, I was doubting the lineup. I was doubting everybody in that lineup, especially, Báez, because the last 2 years didn't look good, like, like at all. But if they're getting production out of this, I think the NL Central is going to be theirs because that pitching staff, headlined by Skubal, I mean, that guy's a dog. And Casey Mize is throwing the ball well. You have Reese Olson, Jack Flaherty. Like, that's a solid four. I'm still not a firm believer in the bullpen, but I mean, they are currently blowing out not the Tigers, the Red Sox right now. So, I mean, hey, you won't need to use the bullpen if you're blowing guys out. So, I guess that's one way to look at it. But yeah, I want to see a solid year from Báez, just as a fan, because I love watching Javy Báez like pimp home runs and playing with energy, and I think this year we could see that come out. And who doesn't love players playing with energy, wearing it on their sleeve, and especially with a competitive team with the Tigers, they're all young, like. Can rejuvenate Báez to have a great year. Now, moving to the team that the Tigers are currently blowing out, and that being the Boston Red Sox. And we have very unfortunate news. Sure that all of you have seen that Tristan Casas is going to miss the remainder of the season with a ruptured patella tendon in his knee. And this, raised a couple questions in Red Sox land. Because with that hole now at first base, the Red Sox don't really have anybody that immediately slots in. I know they have guys like Nick Sogard, and they had Romy Gonzalez as options, also Abraham Toro, but realistically, like, those are kind of just like backups that you keep on the bench, and you throw in there when guys need either a DH day or a day to get off their feet. But I don't think these are necessarily players that the Red Sox want to be having there, getting, consistent playing time. And this raised the question of, does Rafael Devers now move over to first base to play first and get out of that DH role? And, there's that whole drama with, him saying that he's a third baseman and not going to move for Alex Bregman and all that. And, he's now the full-time DH, and now he's standing on what he said before. He's the DH and doesn't want to move to first base. And to me, this comes off as, a little egotistical because, the Red Sox, they paid you all this money to be the face of the franchise and to be, that guy, the leader of this team. And to say that, this is my position, I'm not going to change for Alex Bregman, who, is still a great player at, the later stages of his career. But now that, a big piece of your lineup and Tristan Casas going down, I think this would have been the perfect opportunity to really show, the team that he's going to be the leader and, learn a new position. Because, I mean, he can't be any worse than he is at third base. But I think, it just comes down to like an ego thing to me in my eyes. I think that Rafi, he wants to do this one thing, and, mind you, he's an amazing hitter, one of the better power contact bats that we have in the league. Always is a great run producer as well. But I think if you're able to, kind of open up that DH role, this may be crazy. I was talking to, shout out my boy Haven, He was actually the one that brought this up to me. I was gonna talk about this regardless, but we were just picking each other's brains, going back and forth. So shout out Haven, I know you're listening. But I think this is a perfect opportunity for the Red Sox to bring up Roman Anthony. Call me crazy, but I think if you slot him into the DH role, or because I don't think you're taking out Rafaela, Abreu, or Duran in either of those spots. So, and just he's a young guy as well, Roman Anthony. So I think if you're able to just have him focus on hitting and, not so much defense, I think that'd be really beneficial for, the development of his mental as, becoming a big league player. Again, I think this is, a perfect, it's obviously not great news that, this guy Tristan Casas, who's been hurt, it seems like every year, unfortunately, and a big piece of that lineup, a really good power bat, a great lefty swing. It's so smooth, especially for him being such a big guy. But I think this is, the perfect chance for the Red Sox to bring up Roman here. This is another case where this guy's just absolutely destroying AAA pitching, and I think it's time. Something needs to change. And I think, that, Boston will keep Devers in that DH role and just roll out like a Nick Sogard, Abraham Toro, and Romy Gonzalez out there at first base. But if it was me being the GM, I'm telling Rafi, get over to first base. You're learning this position whether you like it or not, and for the betterment of the team, you kind of just have to know, because there's no way Devers is like, yeah, you know what? We'll take all Romy Gonzalez, Abraham Toro, and Nick Sogard over the number one prospect in baseball, and I'm gonna go learn a new position for this guy to come up and be an impact bat for us. There's no way that doesn't cross your mind, like, in the slightest. And if it doesn't, man, maybe I'm just out of tune, and maybe I'm the one thinking crazy. But I think this is an opportunity that Boston really needs to think about. And maybe, you give those three guys a couple weeks, but I think if you're trying to win and be competitive, which obviously you're going to do if you extend Crochet. But if you're trying to be competitive in this division where right now it's just looking like the Yankees are the only competition, you got to make some big move to really put you over the edge of the Yankees. And I think they could easily do that with their lineup, and bringing in Roman could be the saving grace for the rest of the season. And we've seen him produce at the AAA level. So like I brought up before with the whole Chase Petty and Cade Horton situation, sometimes you just have to let those guys ride it out in the major leagues and develop there as well, because they're just killing it in AAA, and that development in AAA compared to MLB can only go for so long until you really develop and shape your craft into being able to be successful at the major league level. And I think that's what Boston should do here. And, maybe we see it in the coming weeks, kind of have more of a guide of what the Red Sox are going to do. But I hope, I'm crossing my fingers over here just as a baseball fan, because I'm a Yankees fan. I don't want to see the Red Sox come first in the division, but for the betterment of baseball and just to see prospects be successful, I'd love to see Roman Anthony come up. But that's going to conclude it for today's podcast. Hope you guys all enjoyed that. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Make sure to rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. And also, I do want to hear from you guys. I did have a lot of recent interviews that I've done, so just getting your feedback on that would be great. Did you like them? Did you not like them? Or even if you have anybody that you want to hear from, or even if you have a story of from baseball yourself that you'd want to share, let me know in the comment section below, or shoot me a DM or shoot me a text. I'd love to get people on here just to share their love for baseball. And everyone that has come on as a guest, from AJ to Mick to Melissa to Ethan to my mom, we've all had great conversation. It trust me when I say it's a lot of fun coming on and just being able to go back and forth with ideas, or even theories, or some crazy hot takes. I think I think it's a lot of fun. I may be a little biased, but if you have something that you want to share, let me know. I'm always open to ideas and getting people on here just to have this as an open space for people that love baseball as much as I do. And I'm still playing. Our summer season just started last week, and getting back into the swing of things, I missed it. I was out for last summer due to, getting some surgery done on my shoulder, but just being back out there, playing on the field, just being able to throw the ball, being around the boys, I'm telling you, there's nothing, absolutely nothing better than just having a night under the lights with the fellas. But anyways, that's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys in the next one.